Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. My name is PJ and today I'll be guiding you through Bahrain in F1 2020. I'll be taking you through each of the corners in detail, showing a couple of things that I've learned along the way that hopefully will help you out ahead of your next race. If you like what you see here and you want to keep getting better at racing games, you can subscribe for more videos, but for now, let's get started. And we're starting right here on the main straight. You want to start on the left hand side as much as possible in order to get a good line for the braking zone up ahead. Now, what you'll notice here, because this is one of the best overtaking spots in the entire circuit, because you got the big long straight, you're going to use all of your battery, you're going to use your DRS as well if you've got that available. If you're on the inside, you should be braking roughly at about the 150, which you look at the Marshall post over there on the right hand side, you should have a rough reference. At the very latest, you're braking at 100 on either side. So your target really is, as soon as you get past the 50, start eyeing up your braking point. Look for the 100 meter board here on the left. And you can see that the blue line here, which is my best lap in time trial, it is starting to get a bit wider here. So it's showing that I'm starting to brake here. It can be very tricky to get this right. The main thing is just to get the car slowed down. Get the car slowed down and get it as far left as possible, because the first turn here is extremely tight. You want to get a good line in through here, and then you need to be patient with the throttle. Try to carry as much speed as you can through there, and then get over as far right as you can, because you need to straighten up turns 2 and 3 as much as possible, because you got another long straight ahead with DRS. So you want to ride all of the curb on that side. You want to ride all of the curb here too. Maybe keep one wheel on the road just so that it doesn't invalidate your lap or give you a penalty. Then you hit the DRS right here and go straight down. You can use some of your ERS if you've got any battery left here as well. And then you come up here straight away to turn 4. It's another good turn overtaking spot. You're again looking at the 100 meter board, which I just passed, and that is your reference. You can, because it's a very wide corner, you can actually brake pretty late here, and you can sort of make it up on the exit if you do a switch back on somebody. But in most cases you're braking at 100, maybe brake at the 50 if you're getting desperate for an overtake and you think you can make it stick on the exit. So you want to get the speed down and then just roll through the corner in around 4th gear. You don't want to hit the curb on the inside, because you want to, as soon as you hit that apex there, you want to start getting on the power more and more and more until you get on the exit, while you're still turning, of course. You're still turning, and then you should be straightened up before you cross the Pirelli board and hit the rumble strips here on the side. Again, make sure you don't do a Vettel and put down too much throttle and spin it out. You just then shoot straight down, keep it towards the left so that you get into this complex here. You should be entering here at about 6th gear, but I like to drop it down to 5th just to give the car a little bit more turning. And what I do is I lift off the throttle just a bit through this corner and then keep the momentum going, and then as soon as I can I'm trying to get back on full throttle as much as possible. I'm normally full throttle by the time I hit this apex, so I don't always hit the inside curb, but I do try to carry as much speed and momentum as possible out through here and use the curb on the outside. That'll get you back up to 6th gear, up to 7th briefly, and then you're braking right away. Now these next 2 corners that you're braking for are 2 of the hardest braking spots in the entire calendar. So what I would recommend here is that you pull the brake bias back all the way back to 50, because otherwise what you're going to find, because it's downhill and because it's a very hard braking zone for this one and the next one, and you're turning for both of them, you're going to lock up different inside front. It's very common for that to happen, especially at the next corner. Right now we're at turn 9, and you just bring it down into 3rd gear, maybe not ride the curb on the inside, because again you want to line up the car for a good exit speed. That's a common trait across all of the corners on this circuit. You're always trying to roll the car through the corners rather than trying to bring it to a sharp stop. And then get on the throttle here. That curb is a little bit serrated, so you may want to stay off it a little bit, because it might unsettle the car depending on your setup or depending on how worn your tires are. You get back up to speed here into the tricky braking turn for turn 10. So this white line that I'm looking at right now, that should be a rough point for braking reference. What you want to do is you want to be full speed until you pass this line, and once you pass this line, you begin turning, you begin braking. Make sure you clip the inside here. You can see I'm already braking relatively hard for this corner, and you don't want to brake too hard and turn too much, because you will lock the inside front, and that can cause you to understeer off the road, or it can give you really bad tire wear, which is a significant challenge. This is one of the toughest corners on the entire calendar. I'm not going to lie about that. That is a corner that everybody struggles with. They even struggle with it in real life a lot. You see a lot of lockups here when you watch the Bahrain Grand Prix. So you want to just, as you turn more, get off the brakes a little bit more. If you go to my ABS guide, you can find a link in the description. You will find that you need to ease off the brakes the more you turn, so that you can keep the grip on the front towards its limit without going over the limit. Now you might lock up a little bit, and that's okay, but if you lock up a lot and you hear the tires really squealing, then you know you're in trouble. But your main goal here is to clip that apex. Just clip it there with the wheel, and then begin transitioning back onto throttle again. Now you can use some of the curb here on the exit, but I wouldn't recommend it, because as you can see, it's very bumpy and you could lose a lot of momentum going through it. You just passed the DRS zone there, so you've got your DRS, you open that up, and you should be full throttle by now, all the way down the back straight. Now here you might want to pull the brake bias forwards again a little bit, just to give you a bit more braking power for the rest of the circuit, because you may have had it all the way back at 50% for those last two turns. And this is another good overtaking spot right here. So right after DRS, you're braking at around the 50 meter board. You want to brake from the outside here, and then just roll through it in around, I believe, 5th gear. Maybe 4th if you really have to slow down. And you can touch the inside curb. The outside curb is a little touch and go. It depends on a lot of factors. It's relatively smooth, but there's still enough of a bump to it that if you've got the car not lined up properly and you're too eager on the throttle, you could easily snap the car and lose control. But your main priority there is to roll as much speed through the corner as possible, so that you can go full throttle. You should be full throttle from here, maybe even before, if you've got a good exit. You're going to be full throttle all the way through this turn. You want to get over as much to the left as possible, and then you're going to be full throttle through here. And this is a secret spot to really mess up your car, because that curb on the inside will raise the car off the ground, especially at the high speeds that you're going at. If you raise the rear right wheel off the ground while you're fully loaded and turning right at high speed, maybe 7th, maybe 8th gear, then what you're going to find is that the rear left is going to be spinning like crazy, and it's just going to rotate the car. It's common on a couple of high-speed corners across the entire game. This is one of the most tricky ones for that. So you want to stay off that curb. Maybe graze it a little bit, but you don't want to be on it for long, because as soon as you lift the rear tire, you're gone. So now you come up to the braking point here, which is very deceptive, because as you can see, there's no markers anywhere. There's no big signage boards or anything like that telling you where to brake. So you need to find a reference and try to stick to that, or try to modify that as best as possible. Now, I found that the best braking point that I can use is, if you look over there on the right hand side where the marshals are, you should see that the Armco barrier is starting to turn orange. And if you can't see that, you just aim for the roll expander there on the right hand side. So as soon as you pass that, you should be braking. So if I'm at this point on the track, I should be hitting the brakes right now and getting ready for the next corner ahead. Now you want to enter it, stay left for a reasonable amount, start to turn more as you pass the Rolex, and now you can see I'm easing off the brakes. And you want to square this corner off, because you need to get a good exit down onto the straight down below. So you just turn in here, and then you can ride that curb all day. You can put the right hand wheels on that and then just skim through, and then gradually feed the throttle back in to get more speed on the exit. There's no DRS zone down this straight, But if you have any battery left, I would save it for the next straight. Maybe use it here if you're absolutely desperate for a pass, but you shouldn't be, because you're going to have a big DRS activation zone coming up, and you want to brake just as you cross under the Aramco sign here. Don't use the shadow on the ground, because at night time you won't even see the shadow, and depending on the time of day the shadow moves. So your reference point should be as soon as you cross the sign above you, hit the brakes, and then you get down, and then you keep it straight and you keep it as far left as possible until you pass the 50-meter board, and then you bring it in, and then you bring it in. Some people might like to come out a little bit wider out here and then square it off, but the main priority here again is to roll the speed out. Your big goal is going to be the exit speed. You need to get as good an exit as possible, because you're going to go onto the longest straight on the track next. So you get in here, maybe avoid the curb on the inside, because again you'll unsettle the car just as you're putting the throttle down, and you want to keep the rear wheel, you want to keep the back of the car planted. You want to keep it absolutely planted as much as possible. What you'll often find here, especially if you're running without traction control, is that you will come through here maybe in 4th gear, and then as soon as you begin to get on the throttle, immediately shift up once, and then maybe immediately shift up again, depending on how much wheel spin you're getting, because you want to minimize the wheel spin as possible, because you want to have your foot planted to the floor, or your trigger fully pulled on the controller all the way once you've straightened up the car. So you'll be rolling out to here, and then you've got this curb here, which if you're coming out of there at a decent speed, you can go over this by the time you're full throttle, but if you're not full throttle, I would stay off it, because it'll unsettle the car then. But if you are full throttle and you've short shifted all the way through there, then absolutely use it just to maintain the speed and keep the speed going. But you should be fully off it by the time you reach the grass, and then you come up to the final DRS zone, which is a big overtaking zone, and then you just blast it straight down, and that is a lap of Bahrain. Now that you know your way around Bahrain, why not check out some other guides on my channel? You can find 2 videos on screen now to go check them out. In the meantime, thanks for watching, liking and subscribing, and I wish you the best of luck in your next race.